Hello, everybody,
Hello.
and welcome to the McCaw podcast universe. This is the podcast where Jordan and I go through film franchises, and we take them one movie at a time, and we exist to prove people wrong when they say that sequels are better than the originals. I'm Micah McCaw.
I'm Jordan McCaw.
And with us, we have a very special guest. It's my sister, Rebekah McCaw.
Woo! Hi.
And she was very adamant when we started this podcast. She was like, I have to be on The Lord of the Rings. And, well, a little backstory for if you're just jumping into our series. This is our Patreon pick series. So our patrons have voted for this, and this is the winner, Middle-earth. And we're finishing up the first part of Middle-earth, which is The Lord of the Rings. And anyway, all that to say, my sister was very adamant when we started this that whenever we did Lord of the Rings, she had to be on it, or I was under physical duress if she was not in it.
Yes.
She just confirms it right away. So without,
I wanted to be on all of them, but I had to settle for only one.
Yeah, it'd be only a very special circumstance, I think, where we would have a guest in like all three of a series. They'd have to be like the director of it or something like that.
Yeah, it would have to be Peter Jackson.
But I'm your
Yeah.
sister. That's like the next to the best thing.
Well, you know.
And next to the best thing gets you on one episode.
Okay, now I know how the scale works.
Yeah. So, yes. So we're talking about Return of the King. Let's each just talk a little bit about how, like, this series, like this movie in general, our first experience with it, etc. Let's start with you, Rebekah.
Oh, my first experience with it?
Yeah, like how do you remember it at least?
I remember I didn't get to do the like midnight showing thing, but I remember seeing it in theaters, and it was so good. I can't remember who I went with, but it was so good, and I was like so excited for it. And I think it came out when I was in 7th grade or 6th grade maybe. And
that would track because we'd have been 4th graders, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you'd have been like 7th or 8th grade.
Yeah.
I think I can solve the mystery of when you saw it for the first time, but I'll let Jordan go first.
Okay. I think the only one I saw in theaters, and saw it. I feel like I might have seen it in White City. It's possible, but I could be wrong about
really?
that. But my experience was I was so in love with the series, and I was so mad because I had to pee most of the time, and I refused to go to the bathroom. And at the end of the movie, I like really wanted to cry because I just felt so emotional, but I couldn't because I had to pee too bad. That was my experience.
Well, and let's do a quick sidebar. For those who are not in the Rogue Valley, the White City Theater it's a fun theater to talk about because Rebekah and I used to live in White City / Eagle Point when we were growing up, which is in that area. And it is the really cheap theater. Still to this day, it's like $5 movies pretty much all the time. But it's also
Terrible.
It's a horrible theater. Like half the time the screens are really dim. The sound's always bad.
Yeah.
Things I didn't notice when I was a kid, but it was always like a treat when we went to Medford to go to Tinseltown for us.
Yeah.
It was always like, oh my gosh, we're like really seeing a movie, you know? And so my first experience with this movie, and I believe yours, I could totally be wrong, Rebekah, but I'm pretty sure this was your experience as well.
I was just so focused on the movie, I didn't care about who was with me.
Well, the movie came out December 17th, 2003, and as we all know, my birthday is December 22nd.
Yeah.
And so 5 days after the movie came out, we went and saw the movie.
Oh, yes. And Ruth was with us, wasn't it? Aunt Ruth?
That sounds familiar.
Because
I know she was
something
definitely
about the white screen.
The white screen?
When it
What do
just
you
goes
mean?
white for a second.
Oh, yeah.
And she was oh my gosh, it's like so cool because it's like the light and something weird about that. And I remember that all of a sudden.
Okay. And this is why you had to be on this episode for the white screen Aunt Ruth talk. So,
I remember now, though, who I was with.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing I remember about this movie is I would imagine it probably took them about a year until they came. So probably sometime in 2005, they probably came out with the extended editions. And I remember seeing previews, and you and I, Rebekah, looking at the previews for the extended minutes and being pretty bummed that it said that it only said over 45 minutes of new footage.
Yeah.
Because we didn't really understand time, I don't think, because we were like, oh, I was hoping it'd be like an hour, maybe 2.5 hours more movie.
Yeah. I also remember leading up to the movie playing the video game, and they would have cutscenes of the new movie. And I remember specifically the one when Merry goes up to Pippin after Pippin had the Palantir, and he's like, Sauron thinks you have the ring. And I was like, what, Dad? And then also the spider, Shelob. I was like, what? And then also the dead people. I was like, what is this one?
Oh, yeah. It was such a wild ride playing that game. And I don't know what date it came out, but it did come out before the movie.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so
probably not that long before the movie.
Yeah, maybe like a couple of weeks, I would imagine, at the most.
At least it was a complete game, though, because it went through all the movies, basically.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, yeah, because you started in Two Towers. Because the first level, you're Gandalf at Helm's Deep.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, well, at least it was 2 movies.
Right. Because then the Two Towers game starts with you on Weathertop.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm so excited to talk about this movie. Just for the listener, if you've never looked at this, the theatrical version of this movie is 3 hours and 21 minutes. The version we watched last night was 4 hours and 23 minutes. So it was over an hour long. You watched it all
in one night?
We took a break, though, in between the discs.
Yeah.
Oh, I watched the first disc on Thursday and then the other one last night.
Oh, okay. We just, it was just funny because I paused it, and we have the Blu-ray now, which is awesome, but I paused it on the first disc, and it showed that the first disc was 2 hours. And so when we went outside and took a walk after we finished the first disc, I was like, oh, I think we have maybe 1 hour and 50 minutes to go. And then it's like, oh no, we have 2.5 more hours.
Yeah.
Right.
But this has to be the breeziest 4-hour plus movie that's ever been made. Because it was not even remotely boring.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it. There's so much going on.
And even Two Towers, love it. It's 10 out of 10. It's perfect. Wouldn't change anything. But when we watched it, I was a little there were a few times where I was like, okay, I'm kind of ready to get to the next scene. Not that this scene is bad in any way.
Yeah.
But this one, and maybe it helps that have only seen this movie a handful of times, where I've seen the other ones 30, 40, 50 times.
I feel like everyone's seen Two Towers the most. Yeah. That's just, I feel like when I've talked to people about it, people are most familiar with that one. Because Helm's Deep is just so crazy.
That's interesting, because I would say that a majority of people that I talk to that are fans of Lord of the Rings a lot, we all watch Return of the King more than any of the others.
Interesting.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's the best one.
Yeah.
It is the best one in storyline, but it's not the best in graphics.
Oh,
I would say it's actually the worst in graphics.
That is a hot take.
I think I could see that, but I do think that this one has a lot more than the last. I feel like this movie has a lot more CGI than the other ones.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
Because it's so epic.
Yeah.
I think I would agree with that.
I wouldn't say... So there's 3 big complaints that I have about the movie now, as opposed to when I was younger.
This is going to be interesting, Rebekah. Prepare for the floodgates of Isengard's dam to burst forth from our fandom on you with this.
There is one of them is definitely from a horse rider's perspective. I'm a horse rider, if people don't know that. The close-up of people riding on fake horses is so incredibly obvious, and they do it so much in this film. I cannot stop cringing every time I see someone, and I'm talking about the close-ups, not when it's the horse and the rider, when it's just the rider, and you can tell they are not riding a horse.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
It was funny watching the behind the scenes, because it truly is. And I mean, maybe Rebekah, you have an idea on how they could have fixed it. Because I have no idea, because they just have them on a fake horse and it moves around, but it's like they can't endanger the actors and have them like with the and they also can't set up at least at the time, a camera that close to their faces.
Yeah.
You know, so I wonder, do you have an idea of them fixing that?
Well, I think now with GoPros, there's so much more flexibility with that kind of a thing.
Oh,
and
sure.
You could do things, because the GoPros are so stabilized now, you could do things like have a professional rider riding with a GoPro maybe on the side and doing it that way. Or even having it somehow come up from their helmet or their hat or something to have it next to them riding, because it's so obvious. And he does it, like, it would have been fine if he had done it 1 or 2 times, but I counted 7 major times, and that was 7 times that I noticed it more than even a couple of other times that he had done it, because he did it like 10 times throughout the whole movie.
Yeah. See,
and it just drove me crazy.
Yeah.
And
it doesn't bother me at all, because it is, those moments are like, you need, I really feel like you do need the character reactions. And like we talked about in The Fellowship, a lot of the CG and like the background, even when it looks fake, it has kind of like a painting quality to it. So for this series, it really works for me. But I do know what you're saying, and I do get it. That is a interesting thing to bring up.
And it was especially bad, and they did it twice, with Eowyn and Mary.
Yeah, I did notice those for sure.
Yeah, that one was really bad.
And the Pippin and Gandalf, too.
Yeah, that one wasn't even as bad as the Eowyn one, though.
Yeah.
But another thing, big complaint, and I've always had this complaint, even from the beginning, and I don't know if it's the actress, but Eowyn's character. Hate her in all the movies. Like,
really?
I hate her. She's not as much of a victim, and I think they play her off as like a typical woman victim in these movies. Like, she's always doom and gloom, and like the dream that she has, or she's dreams that she's gonna be in a cage, and Aragorn's like, that's not your fate. And it's just like, even when she's talking to Faramir in this movie, she's like, I see darkness and this and that. And then, like, he comes in and he's like, no, you're okay. Ugh. Yuck. And in the books, she doesn't come across that way. At least how I read it.
Yeah, but do you think... See, because I guess to me, now, I'm speaking as a man right now. I am not a woman. So let's just put that out there, folks. But to me, it actually reads more like everyone in the movie feels that way. So she doesn't seem different to me in that way. Like, everyone seems like they have no hope. And she's one of the few people that like retains hope. Is how I see it.
No, I see it as she has, because she's a woman and it's clearly obvious that she's not given the rights of men. Like, she can't do anything that she wants to do that they can do. I think she still feels the weight of what the men feel. I think part of it is because she's put it upon herself, and then also because she is in a position of authority. Right. But she still can't, she doesn't have the opportunity to still do everything, even though that pretty much she would be in charge of Rohan.
Yeah.
Like by the end of all this, because it's likely that Theoden and Éomer would die. So that's how I see it. And I agree with Mike in terms of the doom and gloom. It's like she was basically stalked by a weird worm tongue guy for a long time. And she had to see her true. She had to see her uncle be possessed by a wizard, and then she also had to see her cousin die. So I think they set her up well. I think especially in this movie, because in this movie she gets her due. Yeah. Like, she kills Sauron. It is
the
Witch
King, not Sauron.
Oh, sorry, you're right, the Witch King. But it is just, I feel so empowered seeing that scene, and I was like fist pumping a lot.
That's one of my favorites. I am no man.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your third one?
I don't like Éowyn's character. Anyway, and then my third one is the when they're riding the horses from the White City to the Osgiliath? Is that what the side city is called? Yeah.
When Faramir's going back out.
Yeah, when he goes back out, it looks different. Like the way they did the horses, there's less horses in that than in the big, huge, massive Rohirrim that come and fight for them. And yet that scene of them running with the horses, as epic as it is, the CGI is way more noticeable and worse in that than it is when there's 3 times as many horses
well,
in the Rohirrim scene. So for me, and you know me, I know the other people in the audience don't, but CGI is a really hard thing for me to get over. And I know that it was done in a much earlier time when CGI wasn't as good as it is now, but even still, like, I can't even bear to watch certain movies because of the CGI horses. Like, it's just, I just can't get over it, and I do try.
Well,
but
I'm gonna have some stuff to talk about when we get to the horses, because I watched on the Blu-ray they have another disc, Rebekah, and it has just like a 2-hour documentary that's just like fly on the wall footage of them filming each movie, and there was a whole like 10 minutes on how they did the CG horses. So when we get to that, I'll talk about it more. Well, this is exclusive on the Blu-ray. But I'm sure they had some other stuff that was similar to it on that. But let's get into the production.
Have some of the horse stuff on there, on the extended version of mine on the DVDs.
On the appendixes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although yesterday I went to go put in the second disc, and I had it upside down, and I put in one of the appendixes first, and I'm like, wait, where's the second disc? Did I lose it?
Oh man. I found out that my Fellowship DVD extended has Appendix Part 1 and then another Appendix Part 1. And I just had never noticed because...
Oh my gosh, are you kidding?
I just hadn't... Yeah, and I bought it years ago, so... Anyway. Okay, production time. Here we go. Same production crew as the previous 2 movies, so we don't have to go over all of that. The only thing I'm going to add is that it was edited by Jamie Selkirk.
Okay.
Because as we talked about in the other ones... He hired a different editor for each movie.
Yeah.
So that they could meet all these deadlines. The budget, it's just so insane to me. Look at that movie. It's a $94 million budget. That's it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Again, I always bring up Endgame, and we have talked about it. I love Endgame. But it's like, look at the budget of that movie, and then look at the budget of this movie, and which one looks better? Because they're both like these epic conclusions to series. And it's like, it's no contest. Return of the King looks supremely better than Endgame. As good as Endgame looks. It's just
I would just have to really think about it. I think I agree. I agree that Return of the King looks better. I just have to think about that in comparison.
I would say the slow motion, though, in scenes where they've done the slow motion, I would say that Return of the King, it's not as good as Endgame.
Well, I've noticed, I think Peter Jackson likes that weird slow motion.
Yeah, well, what he does in this movie, he doesn't have very many like true slow motion shots.
But what is that called? That other one?
Well, basically, he'll shoot it in like say 30 frames a second, and then they slow that down.
Yeah.
Whereas like
it looks choppy.
Yeah, in Endgame, when they're shooting a slow motion scene, they're probably shooting it at like 100, 200, 1,000 frames a second.
Yeah.
So when they slow down, it looks really smooth.
Yeah.
But
I feel like this time, because especially when Pippin had the Palantir, they did that effect a lot, and I actually I thought that was a good use.
I did too,
for how he was feeling.
I'm just saying, I think that Endgame did the slow mo a little bit better, like in smooth terms. Yeah.
I would just say different, because it's not. They weren't even doing the same technique, you know.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah. That makes sense.
But again, all 3 of us love Endgame, so we're not bashing Endgame in any way.
Right.
We're just talking
They're very
about
different movies.
Yeah. I just think about it because they're both so epic. And I feel like Endgame's like the biggest epic movie since Return of the King.
Yes.
In terms of scope and size.
Yeah.
Domestically, the movie makes $377 million. And then this one gets that sweet, sweet B.
Nice.
Worldwide, it makes $1,140 million.
Holy smokes.
And that's 2003 money. You change that to now, and that's probably like, you're getting close to like $2 billion.
Yeah.
That's insane.
The Battle of the Black Gate was filmed in a former minefield in the Rangipo Desert. So the New Zealand soldiers had to sweep the area for mines.
Ooh, that's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cirith
And
Ungol.
you know that they may have missed one.
That's why it's scary.
Yeah.
I know. That's why all the explosions are so realistic.
1917 has nothing on that on this
Like,
movie.
all those orcs died.
Yeah. And then the Cirith Ungol stair ledge was built as a wet weather set on a squash court in a hotel in Queenstown. And then on November 24th, 1999, Sean Astin's close-ups on the Cirith Ungol set were shot in what became the first shots to be filmed for The Return of the King.
Oh, okay, cool.
And then by that time, Andy Serkis hadn't even been cast as Gollum.
That's so crazy.
And then the set
he
remained...
came in late.
The set remained standing on the squash court, and it was not until a year later, on the 30th of November, 2000, that Elijah Wood's first close-ups were shot on the same ledge.
What?
Oh.
I seriously, production managers could, like, they're just probably some of the smartest people living.
Oh, yeah. The organization skills.
Yeah, I can't understand that.
And then we have...
that's pretty crazy.
It has the most reshoots of any of the movies. We have Bruce Spence again in this movie, who we've covered in the Mad Max series, and we love Bruce Spence, and he is the mouth of Sauron, and they made his mouth 200% larger with CG.
It still looks so good.
Yeah, it's still like the lips are a little weird, but I don't care.
No,
like it just.
I really
looks so
didn't even
cool.
notice until that Corridor Crew episode that they did on his mouth, and they really slowed it down. So it's like, well, of course you're going to see it then more.
And all the
you're
blood
talking
that's
about the
coming
guy
out of
who
his
comes
mouth.
out of the black. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, that guy.
Yeah. So what I noticed last night is, and I hadn't noticed this before. You know the like splits in his mouth
Yeah.
that go down his chin. When he talks, they widen, and then when he's just standing there smiling, they close up again.
Just like a real cut.
Did you notice? Yeah. Did you notice that?
I'm not sure if I did or not.
Oh my gosh, you have to go. I was like, man, that was like such attention to detail. It was perfect, and I never noticed it before, but it was just, I don't know. It was just like I was hyper aware of it. Yeah, last night.
Yeah. So then the set for Minas Tirith was a miniature that was 7 meters tall.
What is that in feet?
I am not sure.
Okay.
But that's like, that's taller than our apartment.
Like the building or our apartment?
Our apartment. It'd probably be in between this first and second story. Because
that's awesome. That'd be so fun to work on.
I think like an average sized man is like 5 meters, I think.
What is that in feet?
So that'd probably be
Just
like
kidding.
6, like a 6 foot is like 5 feet or
That
something.
is not the average height of a
man.
Okay.
It's smaller.
Look it up. Google it.
7 meters. Okay, hang on. So that'd be 22 feet tall.
That's tall.
Yeah. 22 and 11.5 inches. So basically 23 feet tall.
Yeah.
So that's why it looks so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the first time Jackson saw the movie was at the premiere of the movie because of time and deadlines and reshoots.
Yeah.
But here's something very interesting that I had no idea. Christopher Lee boycotted the premiere of the movie.
Why?
Saruman himself, because he did not know until they were getting ready to show the movie that his scene was cut from the movie where he gets killed. Because that's only in the extended version.
That is an extended scene. That's right.
And he felt like it was so disrespectful to him and the source material.
Yeah.
Even though, of course, in the book it goes much differently. But he was like, everyone's going to be confused about what happened to Saruman.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Christopher Lee actually read those books every year for like the last 20 years or whatever.
Rebekah, we covered it in our Fellowship episode. Come
Oh,
on.
well, I didn't know that. I haven't heard it yet.
Yeah, it's not out yet.
I would agree, though. I agree with Christopher Lee.
Yeah, well, and
I think it's important.
next week we're going to talk about them coming back together, because if you'll remember, Christopher Lee is in the Hobbit movies.
Yes.
But I'm not going to spoil that now, but I've already done my research on that. And then finally, my last note until Jordan takes over. This movie was nominated for 11 Academy Awards. And I'm going to list those off. And just so you know, listener, it won all 11 of them. There's only one other movie in the history of the Academy to win as many awards, and that is Titanic.
Were they nominated for 11 awards too?
Ugh,
Yeah.
Okay.
which Titanic should not have. That's a
So it's-
horrible movie.
It won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Art Direction, Best Costume Design, Best Film Editing, Best Makeup, Best Original Score, Best Original Song, Into the West, that song, Best Sound Mixing, and Best Visual Effects. And what is so cool about that is, like this year when Parasite won, it just actually feels like they went, here is the best movie of the year, and we are going to reward it. It's not it's not them trying to like pick the most mellow, watered down movie.
Yeah.
And it's a fantasy action movie.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
What a
remember
landmark.
seeing that as a kid and it's like your favorite team won the NBA Finals or the World Series. It
Yeah.
just was so exciting.
But it just goes to prove, like, even beyond the books, Tolkien is the bar. Like, period.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, he just wrote a story that's so like transcendent.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yes.
as long as you adapt it well, it's gonna resonate with people.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they adapted it incredibly. So,
Yeah.
but it's just cool. I know the Academy kind of they gave Fellowship of Two Towers a few awards, and they were like, yeah, it's good. But I think they were kind of waiting until Return of the King, and they're like, they stuck the landing. Give them all of the awards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Totally.
who do you got for us today, Jordan?
Okay, so the first one is the person who plays the Witch King, which is John Stevenson. He is a grade A voice actor, has done so much Scooby-Doo. He's done Charlotte's Web, Transformers, X-Men, G.I. Joe, Johnny Bravo,
Wow, that's so cool.
and Flintstones. Like, he goes back. Because he was born in 1923.
No way.
Yeah, so he has been doing voice.
Whoa.
Oh, also Rugrats.
Rugrats?
Yeah.
This guy's been such a part of our life, even more than we thought.
Yeah, he's in everything. He's in everything cartoon-wise, I feel. Actually, yeah.
Who was he in the Rugrats?
It said voice narrator, but I'm not like clicking on it, so I don't know if he's done more than that.
Yeah. It's probably one of those things where you would click on his name and it'll list like 8 characters, like all the actors
Right.
on The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was thinking. It'd be interesting.
So there's him, and then let me scroll up really quick.
And
Fine.
just so you know, Rebekah, we've covered like all the actors throughout, so we're just covering like 2 right now. So,
Oh, I was gonna
Yeah,
mention that
I figured.
Brett McKenzie's in this movie, who's Brett from Flight of the Conchords, and it was Micah and I were like looking at each other, and we were like, that is him, right?
Yeah.
And we looked it up and we were right. He's also in The Fellowship, which I couldn't even like he does not the same, he's not an elf, I don't think. So I don't know if he's a hobbit or something.
oh, he's not an elf?
No,
in
because
The Fellowship?
his only credit in this movie is elf escort.
Oh my gosh.
So pretty cool.
Huh.
Okay, let me find. Okay, John Noble plays Denethor, who is he's done voice acting in Batman Arkham Knight.
oh,
He's in Fringe, too.
Yes. He's also in the new show Hunters. He's in Elementary, Silencio, Blacklist.
he's a big TV guy.
He is a huge, that's like most of his credits.
Wait, did it
so
say who he
good.
was in Arkham Knight?
Yeah, he is, sorry, I have to go back.
I just have to know.
Dr. Jonathan Crane, ... because I didn't click on it.
Oh, the Scarecrow.
Ah,
Whoa,
That's cool.
He's Scarecrow, Rebekah, in Arkham Knight.
Really?
That's
Wow,
so
that's
cool.
him?
I guess.
Yeah, his voice it sounds different in the game than
Yeah.
because I wouldn't have guessed him because I love him so much. He's amazing in everything that he is in.
and I can't remember, couldn't find the person who plays the Ghost King.
Oh, really?
I mean, not king, but the ghost guy. I have no reference.
Oh, weird.
So he's kind of hard to look up.
Yeah.
But that was the only one I
reminds
thought
me
of.
I always think it's Jeffrey Rush.
Me too.
But it's
Me
not.
too. But
I know
think
it's not Jeffrey
because
Rush.
you barely see him.
Yeah.
So I think you just see enough that it's like, oh, it's Captain Barbossa.
Yeah. And it's like Pirates was coming out around this time. So you're like, I've seen him as a skeleton. It's got to be Captain Barbossa.
Yeah, I think it's that too. So I just always think it's him. And then, of course, watching it now, it's like, it doesn't even sound like him.
No, not at all.
So when Aragorn, I know we're not talking about the movie yet, but when Aragorn goes in to the thing to talk to him and he does that laugh thing, that laugh is so good. It's like chilly but awesome at the same time.
Really good.
Yeah.
It gets into that like kind of Mark Hamill Joker territory where you're like, oh, this is so unsettling. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's the best Joker, too, by the way. If everybody needs to know that in the whole wide world, Mark Hamill is the best Joker.
My favorite's Heath, but Mark is definitely up there.
I mean, Heath is like one down from him, for me.
Yeah. What about you,
Jared
Jordan?
Leto.
Oh.
What?
I'm just kidding. Heath Ledger.
Yeah. Heath Ledger's really, I mean, I had seen the Jack Nicholson Joker, but Ledger,
he's good too, though. Jack Nicholson's good.
But Heath Ledger was like the first Joker that I really like watched that movie, watch it over and over and over. Yeah. So that's part of it, is it's like he's like the first one that really brought me Joker. And I watched the Batman animated series like after I graduated high school. So
the best line that the Joker ever has is Jack Nicholson's when he goes, "Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?"
Oh yeah, that's
good.
That's the best line.
I love that
ever for a Joker. Yeah. Anyway,
let's jump into the movie.
Okay,
so we start with a scene that says the finding of the ring. Oh yes, this is Deagle and Smeagol.
Yes.
Jordan, I've been talking so much. Can you take the reins here?
The two hobbitses fishing in a river, and Deagle catches a fish and it takes him out of the boat, and he finds the ring. And I remember as a kid when this was the first scene, I was so excited because I love Smeagol so much that I was like, "Oh my gosh, Smeagol backstory, cool." And so Smeagol kills Deagle without question, without hesitation for the ring. And it slowly shows not slowly, montage-ish of a progression of him turning into Gollum, which is outstanding. And the effect when he's blinking and he blinks and his eyes are Gollum's eyes is probably my favorite effect in the whole series.
It's insane.
Yeah. It's so good.
The other thing that I super, super love is the music of the heartbeat.
Oh, yeah.
Killing Deagle. It's just like, oh my gosh, you just feel, it's like you can feel the life come out of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
it's so good
that this scene, I think it really caps, because in the book, Gandalf just tells him all about Smeagol in the Shire. Like right off the bat, he's like, here's the deal with Smeagol. But I think it was really smart that they saved it for this movie because, one, everyone wanted it.
Yeah.
And the scene where he's like in like the Grinch kind of makeup and stuff and slowly turning into him is amazing.
Yeah.
But I think it makes that ending hit so much harder when he falls into Mount Doom and you see that it's like this complete arc of like Gollum. That was like Gollum from beginning to end. And it that obsession right from the get-go of the ring. It really makes for a perfect movie.
Oh, yeah. It's wonderful.
And I think the other thing, when I was watching the end of it last night, I was specifically thinking, this just shows the difference between people's resistance and people's obsessions. So, like, it's like an addict. He was addicted to that ring.
Yeah.
And it's not as easy as saying, oh, you just have to choose to quit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I mean, we're gonna jump around. People have seen this movie, but at the end,
should we do the same thing where we do one storyline?
Let's do that.
That worked really well for Two Towers.
So which storyline?
Well, we should just do Sam and Frodo.
Okay. So,
okay.
Yes, on Two Towers, we just did
It made it
one
so
at a
much
time.
easier to talk about it.
So we have just Gollum and Sam and Frodo as they're going through this back secret way to get to Mount Doom outside of the Black Gate.
Mm-hmm.
And already the colors and the sets are so cool.
Yeah.
As they've been throughout the series. But then we get to, what is that place? Minas Morgul, I think? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's all green.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Anne and I were talking about this, my roommate. Oh my gosh, that is like, it's such a cool aesthetic.
And it's so scary.
Yeah.
I'm like so freaked out by that. And also, so I started rereading the Two Towers, and they mentioned, or Tolkien mentions in the Two Towers that tower was built by the guy who cut the ring off. I forgot his name.
Isildur?
Isildur, yeah.
Isildur.
He originally made that tower, and then it was corrupted by man.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Which
Interesting.
pretty freaking cool.
Yes.
And then
An interesting thing to note. So after the Smeagol thing, so it's Sam and Frodo. Sam's trying to get Frodo to eat. Frodo basically hasn't been eating or sleeping. You can tell that the ring's really weighing on him. And Sam gives him food. Frodo asks Sam, "Aren't you going to eat?" And he said, "No, I'm good for right now," because he's thinking about the return journey still. He's still thinking about it. And then by the end of their story, when they're at the mountain, Sam finally says, "I don't think there will be a return journey."
yeah,
So it's just really interesting that it starts that way.
it is. Yeah.
But yeah, anyway.
And then we see that Gollum is kind of poisoning Frodo's mind against Sam, and he frames him with the llama spread, basically puts it on Sam to show him. What?
But before that, you have to talk about the schizophrenic scene.
Yeah, when Smeagol
with Smeagol
and Gollum.
Gollum in the pool of water.
Oh,
when
yeah.
Sam overhears him saying that he's going to kill them.
Yeah, but even before Sam hears that necessarily, it was just like, oh my gosh, that scene was, and they do that in The Hobbit too, which I know is jumping forward, but the scene where they're doing Gollum fighting himself as Smeagol is just so brilliant and so intense. And
it's crazy that it's so intense and it's just one person acting it.
Yeah.
And you get both sides of it. And I love the set of that scene. With the moonlight, it's really good.
Yeah.
And I just love how they do it. They're split and you see that it's him, but then it starts to really, really split. And then all of a sudden, Gollum is in the water and Smeagol is him.
Right.
And then you see them come back together as like one entity thinking about.
And I would argue Gollum is much more grim in this movie because of what happened in the last movie. So when he's in the water, his voice is much in a lower register than Smeagol.
Yeah.
But of course, when it's Smeagol leading the hobbits, it's Smeagol. Like, I mean, that's what he's putting on.
Right.
But like in that scene when he's Gollum, it's like it's all serious now.
Yeah.
I would say in this movie, it propels him to best actor of this film, I think.
I would have to think about that.
Yeah.
But I'm not disagreeing.
Because there's so much artistry to developing two separate characters and adding all of that different emotion from even just the Two Towers to that movie.
I think for me, it's like it's basically a tie between everybody, but I think particularly Frodo and Sam shine probably the brightest of any of the other movies because Frodo has like almost no dialogue in the movie.
Oh yeah, I noticed that.
It's
this
all
time around
face
for sure.
and acting and like physical acting, and it's just such a powerful performance. And then Sam's frustration.
So hopeless.
Yeah, and Sam's frustration with like finally coming to grips with what they're doing and losing his hope is, incredible.
For me, I'm just a sucker for Sam, but especially in this movie, he's my favorite, especially because he is the hope, providing the hope their whole journey.
Yeah.
And when it gets to when they're at Mount Doom climbing up the mountain and Frodo literally can't move anymore and Sam picks him up. I think I just started crying from there until the end of the movie because when I was introduced to Lord of the Rings, my dad introduced it as like this is the best story ever written, 1. And then 2, J.R.R. Tolkien was a Christian, and the series has a lot of Christian themes about good and evil.
Yes.
And then seeing Sam, I identify with the hobbits the most. And I think a lot of people would too, just because us being children watching these things and they feel like children. So I identify with them.
Yeah.
Also, they seem the most innocent, but also it's for Sam, he has the most courage, which you just, because he's a hobbit, you don't really think about it. Of course, all of the hobbits have the most courage too.
And it's truly realized in this movie of all of them.
Yeah.
But let's get back to them.
It's just that, like, it's just very telling that the most basic person can have the most amazing destiny and can change the world. The littlest things can change the world.
So they're on the stairwell. He frames Sam, and Frodo sends Sam away.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to kind of, because this is a long movie. We'll be here forever if we go through every
This
scene.
is probably the quickest storyline, I would say.
It really is. And most of it is in the Two Towers book, which is so funny.
Yeah.
But we're just going to skip to Shelob's lair. Okay? Yeah. We're in there. Smeagol leads him through, and then he has the vision of Galadriel and pulls out the Star of Elendil, which is really cool. And he keeps the spider away.
The spider looks fantastic.
Amazing. I cannot believe how good it looks.
Yeah.
And it's so disgusting.
It's so disgusting.
Like, you just feel gross watching it. I didn't even want to watch it. And
correct me if I'm wrong.
But you can't tear yourself away at the same time.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Micah, because you watched the more behind the scenes than I did this time around. But from my memory, isn't there in the special edition discs, they have them studying a tarantula?
I didn't see that.
Okay, because I just have this memory of them, of like, there's like huge spider that they're all looking at and studying.
Well, I know they for sure studied tunnel spiders. I don't know if that's the same as what you're talking about.
I'm assuming they got a tunnel spider if they got a spider at all.
Yeah.
But I remember them seeing, like, looking at it and probably filming it and taking pictures in.
Well, because they nail the movements. And then you can also see, like, some of the steps. You can be like, ooh, that's a real, like, leg that they built. And they put it down.
I didn't really pay attention to stuff like that, but that's great.
Yeah, there's a few shots where you can see, like, the physical one, and when it's blended with the seat, it's
but when
perfect.
Sam is fighting it, I can't even tell.
No, I can't either.
It's so good.
Oh, yeah. And I didn't notice this but the first time, or this last time, I was like, how did Sam get Frodo's sword? Frodo leaves, when he's going through that web stuff.
Yeah, he drops it.
It gets stuck, and he doesn't drop it,
gets
but
stuck
it
in
gets
the web.
stuck in the web, and he walks away. And I was like, oh my gosh, I never noticed that before. I've always wondered how he got the sword, and it's just one of those details that if you're not paying attention, you miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people are so focused on the spider.
Oh, yeah.
It's a detail that would be easily missed.
Yeah. Oh, it is important to note, too, in that scene, Gollum catches up with Frodo, and they fight, and Gollum falls down a pit. And then especially being a 9-year-old watching it for the first time, it's like, oh, thank God, he's gone.
Yeah.
I just assume he's gone.
And then he still comes back.
Yeah.
He doesn't die.
Yeah.
Well, we all know from film, if action films and films like fantasy films have taught us anything, if you fall off something, you do not die.
I would say if you don't actually see the person die, they're not dead.
Yeah, never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, the old emperor fell off a pretty big little thing, and then all of a sudden he shows up.
That's Star Wars.
Although I will
Darth Maul got
have
cut
one
in half,
minor...
and he survived somehow,
Oh, yeah. I have one minor complaint about the Gollum and Frodo falling off the edge at the end. Like, Frodo fell with his feet closer to the edge than his upper body, and how did he grab the edge then?
That is so
I don't care
nitpicky.
about that sort of a thing.
It bugs me because I'm like, he couldn't grab.
Just
the edge.
remember. While that physically might not make sense, this is a and I'm not going towards the fiction. We all know it's fiction. That's not what I'm talking about. But it's fantasy.
Yeah,
that's how because when I see stuff like that, it's like throw it out. Just don't even let it enter your brain. Of course, other things can, if anyone's listened to our podcast, I can be so nitpicky too.
Yeah.
I'm not, it's just it's so easy, but for some reason, every once in a while, it's like, I don't care about that one thing.
Yeah. A lot of stuff, like I don't know. I just don't. A lot of that's like just the moviness of like making something a little more intense, And so
if
that doesn't bother me.
Because if you think about it, so okay, if you want to talk about the fall, they could have done 17,000 takes of him falling 17,000 different ways. And I'm sure that it came down to they want you to really think that he fell. And there was no chance.
Yeah,
so if they really wanted to get the physics right, they would have done something different.
Right.
But they wanted you to think that he really fell.
Yeah. And I know all of
Yeah,
that.
Rebekah, apologize.
No, it's not like the CGI horse riding where I can't stop thinking about it. It's just one of those things that I notice every time I see it.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Like, oh, yeah, they did that, and that's weird.
I get that for sure.
So Shelob gets Frodo. Its stinger is nasty.
Gross.
It's really gross.
Oh, yeah.
It sticks him. And he goes limp. She puts him in a web. And then, like we mentioned,
I love
Sam comes.
where it's spinning the web. That is so cool.
Very cool. Sam comes, fights her, bests her, and just such a sad moment when he's trying to get Frodo to wake up and he assumes he's dead.
Oh,
and it's like, who could blame him?
Yeah.
Who really could blame
Rip
him?
your heart out.
Yeah.
Man.
So orcs come, carry Frodo away, and they say that he's still alive. And then you're just like sitting in your seat watching, and you're like, what? But it's like, you can't blame Sam.
And you get that far.
Yeah, totally.
And then he wakes up in the tower.
Yes.
And I remember this level in the video game is really fun because you just fight so many orcs and you can get your XP up way high.
Yeah.
Especially if you stay in the main courtyard and kill all of them. You can go up like 3 or 4 levels on this one. And it, once you finish the game, you can play any character. It's just a great place to respawn and just, up Legolas or Gimli or whatever.
Yeah.
And my favorite line from Sam out of all the movies is where he's like, this one's for the Shire, this one's for Frodo, and this one's for my own comfort.
No,
he says my old gaffer.
Yeah. My old gaffer.
He's talking about his dad.
Whatever.
You got your line wrong.
No, he does say that this one's for my own comfort.
No, he doesn't.
It says my old gaffer.
He says my old gaffer. He just says the 3. You got to watch it again.
No, he doesn't.
He does. He 100% does. You'll have to put it in and do the subtitles and tell us if we're wrong.
Yeah, that's the way to figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, it was funnier until now.
So Sam gets up there and
Stop.
So okay.
I seriously have always thought that he said this one's for my own comfort.
Yeah, no, my old gaffer.
Well, it doesn't sound like that.
So
he took on a different accent or something.
So Frodo wakes up and he doesn't have the ring and he's hearing the orcs talk about this precious item. And I didn't realize until this movie that Frodo would think that they're talking about the ring.
Yeah.
I'm always just thinking he's just freaking out about the ring and he's not even listening to them. Come on, there's one more layer to that. So he's freaking out. And then, like we just said, Sam comes up, kills that last orc and saves Frodo. And Sam took the ring off of him because he thought he was dead.
Yes.
And they have a little tension-filled moment of Sam not being sure about giving the ring back to Frodo because of its power.
Yeah.
Very well done. Because Frodo takes it and he says, it's my burden to bear.
Yeah.
And it's just solidifying that is the truth.
Yeah. But it is interesting to note that Sam doesn't seem to have any physical issues bringing the ring to him.
No.
Which is
an
interesting
feel
thing about his character.
Well, yeah, I would think that it would be because, one, Frodo's been carrying it the longest, but also it is his burden. And the ring knows that he will do it.
Right.
And like Sam having it, I think you could kind of see in that quick 10 seconds that Sam could potentially be easily persuaded to not destroy it.
Yes. I think Frodo's the only one that could have done it, especially because Galadriel says
exactly.
if he fails.
Isn't the makeup crazy on his neck from the chain?
It's nuts. It's him and Sam, by the time they make it to the Mount Doom, like where the lava's at, they look so bad. It's insane.
Yeah, really good job.
Yeah.
It's nice to see a movie where they're not just like all in makeup and they just arrive and they have like one scuff mark and they're like, oh, wow, I'm really tired. Oh.
Yeah.
Which is like every Marvel movie ever.
Although Downey looked bad when he was in the ship.
He did.
At the beginning of Endgame. That was
that's because they were starving.
But then we go to, they kind of sneak through the land of Mordor, and all the
As
orcs are moving to the Black Gate.
Yeah.
And they dress up as orcs, and there's that crazy, like, huge orc that has no nose. It looks like it's burned off.
And one white eye.
Amazing.
He was so crazy scary.
He was cool.
Yeah.
And then they slowly make their way up the mountain. You know, it's more of a physical and the ring weighing down Frodo. And they do so good showing it that it actually looks like he has like a 30-pound dumbbell connected to his neck.
Yeah.
Right.
I think a lot of that's the acting.
Yeah.
Really good. So,
and I think he had kind of been an underestimated actor in some respects until this movie.
I think he still is. People don't really talk about him.
Well,
that
think
much,
about it. Because
you know?
we talked about this in the first movie when we went over him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been acting since he was a child. So everyone's always known about him. I think this is when everyone knew about him and like, oh, this is undisputedly great. But ever since Lord of the Rings, he has chosen to do weird things. I don't think it's because he can't get a job. I think he's choosing to do weird stuff.
It's like what Daniel Radcliffe has done.
Exactly. I think it doesn't even feel like he's doing it because he doesn't want to be remembered as Frodo. I think he does it because he's just more interested in doing indie stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Because he's done his big budget
and
thing.
Then he did that TV show for a while.
Wilfred, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's such a horror guy, so he
Yeah.
likes to do horror stuff. But anyway,
which was great for Jordan growing up and getting really into horror and just following Elijah Wood on that journey. Really great.
So what is the first film that you ever saw him in?
Probably Huckleberry Finn. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn.
Mine would have been Free Willy, I think.
Free Willy? He wasn't in Free Willy. You're thinking Flipper.
Or Flipper.
Yeah, Flipper.
Was the first one that I saw
Flipper.
him in.
The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn was a huge Martinez movie.
Really?
We watched that all the time, and especially after watching Lord of the Rings, we watched it even more. Well, I guess maybe I'll speak for myself. I watched it even more.
Who is he in it?
He's Huckleberry Finn.
Oh, he is. Okay.
Yeah. He's so cute.
Okay, we make it to the same place where Elrond told Isildur to throw the ring in, and Sam's like, "Throw the ring in. What are you doing?" And Frodo says, "No."
Yeah.
And that's a pretty insane moment. Even now, you're like, are you serious? You went all this way and you're about to turn around?
Yeah.
And he looks possessed.
He does. He looks very Gollum-like.
It's so cool. Yeah.
And it is crazy to think that, because the ring's been fighting him this whole time, and to think that it's probably at its strongest, right, where it's the one place you can destroy it.
Yeah.
And that it could corrupt any person at that state.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Really good.
And then Gollum comes out of nowhere after he puts the ring on, attacks him, and there's kind of this goofy. He looks a little goofy. I don't know how else he could have done it, but
I don't know.
No, he looks good. It always kind of makes me chuckle in my brain because he's just on top of this invisible thing.
I've never even felt that way at all. It always just is so great to me.
I would not change it. I'm not saying it's bad. I know you're not saying that. I know. It's just always kind of like, oh, that's kind of fun. Like Gollum, this character that I really love, looks like he's being controlled by a puppet right now.
I think I've always been so caught up in the moment, I've never even considered that.
And then he bites his finger off.
Yeah. Which is crazy. Like, think about it.
Thing.
It's a PG-13 movie. Like, let's just say that's pretty graphic.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was when he was invisible, he could have like torn off his whole arm and it still would have made it because you didn't see it happen. It's really interesting to think about.
Yeah.
But then, of course, you see his bloody stump, and it's disgusting.
Yeah. And then that amazing shot where it goes through the ring and it pulls up.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's like, I have it. And he starts dancing. And it's just like evil wins. That's how it feels.
Yeah.
And then Frodo fights him, and then they both fall off.
Yep.
And then inexplicably, Frodo hangs onto the edge, which I've always had a problem with.
And then, this is another thing. Okay, so Sam helps him up, and he's telling him like, "Don't you let go." But this is the same thing that Frodo did to Sam in the Fellowship. When Sam came and he was drowning, Frodo saved him, and it's just roles reversed.
Oh my gosh,
so good.
I totally forgot about that.
This is the first time I've made that connection, but it's like that is so beautiful.
Well, and one of the beautiful moments about it, I think, is Frodo. I couldn't remember if Sam either just kind of leaps down and grabs him or if Frodo does do it. And I was like, Man, if Frodo reaches, that shows so much about his character, because this will be the first time since the Two Towers that he has any hope if he reaches for Sam's hand, because he truly has lost hope in his life.
And then remember, like right before that, they're walking up to the mountain, and Sam's like, "Frodo, do you remember the Shire?" And he's saying all the tiny little things about the Shire, and Frodo's like, "I don't even remember what grass feels like,
Oh my
or
gosh,
what food tastes
Well,
like."
and he even asked him first. He asked him, "Do you remember the strawberries?" And
Yes.
he's like, I can't remember the taste.
Yeah, and then
I can't remember. All I see is darkness, and
so then when they get out and they go on, volcano exploding, and they go out onto that rock, Frodo says, "Sam, do you remember the Shire?" Because he can now see everything again.
Yeah.
And I mean, like I said, pretty much crying from here on out. But when Sam started talking about Rosie, I really got emotional for that.
Yeah.
It's just so sad and so sweet.
But I do want to back up.
Yeah.
Okay.
The ring lands in the fire. Gollum,
Oh yeah, when you were a kid, were you freaking out at this part?
because I was like, yes, because it sits there for so long, and I'm like, wait, it can't be destroyed?
Yeah.
Like, that's the message as a kid I'm getting.
Yeah.
I'm like, it can't be destroyed. And then it lights up, and I'm like, it's getting powerful. Like, somehow Sauron is about to, like, come up out of the
Use it.
lava or something like that. And I, as a child,
I was freaking out.
I think I was, I would have been 10. I would have turned 10 when we saw this movie. And you're not old enough to, like call the shots. You know, you don't know what writers are setting up when you're 10 years old.
Yeah.
Although it's still, even to this day, it's like, that is so long. Is it going to melt?
I know.
But here's what's really cool.
So as a kid, you guys way overthought.
Oh,
that
totally.
one,
We were hanging on every thread.
Even though I was in 7th grade when it came out, I was kind of
You would have been 14, okay?
Oh, dang, no, 13. But dang, this is literally what I thought. What a horrible way for Gollum to die.
Oh yeah, I do remember thinking that too when he went in the lava, and I'm like, ow, I feel like I can almost feel that.
Yeah, I don't even care about the ring at this point. That's just a horrible way to die.
It is crazy that when he does fall, his reaction is his eyes are still on the ring.
Yes.
Even to death.
And he's trying to hold it up. He
Yeah.
wants the ring to survive.
Yeah.
But let me take you behind the curtain, because I never knew this. All the lava that you see in the movie, that's CG, right?
What do they do?
No, it's not.
What'd
It's
they do?
not CG. So they just combined a bunch of different elements, and then they had another miniature set with like the rocks and stuff like that, and then they would flow it through those things.
What do you mean elements? What is that?
I don't remember, but it's like a bunch of heated up stuff that looks like lava, and then they go down this slope, and then
Shut up.
I think
That's
it
cool.
takes them like 2 or 3 hours to reset it. So
that makes sense.
So then to do each shot, you're talking about like probably a month of shooting to get all the lava.
When they had close-ups on Frodo
Wow.
in there, and the lights are like flashing on his face and everything, all that stuff was so good.
Yeah.
But for close-ups especially.
And then
Yeah.
let me tell you another thing they did. The ring that's burning in the fire. You're thinking, yeah, that's definitely a fake ring. It has to be. How would they do it? That's not a fake ring.
That's cool.
Now, of course, I'm
But is
sure
the writing real?
I was gonna say I'm sure that the writing is fake, but they had all different types of rings, and then
Yeah.
they have a camera set up, and then they have stuff that looks like, or they have like heated up stuff that can burn metal.
Yeah.
And then they just tried it with all the different types of rings until Jackson chose which one he liked.
Isn't it crazy that like I would maybe say really bright colors always look fake, even in real life?
Yeah.
Like lava kind of looks fake.
Yes.
So when you're telling me it's real, it's like, wow, that's crazy, because I just assume that it's
That is
fake.
crazy.
Also with lava, so you would assume it's just fake.
Yeah.
But that's cool.
And of course, it's not real lava. But
No, I know
it is,
that, but
yeah,
something that looks
it's
like it.
practical. It's a practical special effect.
Yeah.
Which is just
So Frodo and Sam get saved by the
That's
eagles, but let's
crazy.
save the last part
for
for
the
later.
End. Yes. Now we're at Isengard.
Okay.
We're with Treebeard, the other 2 hobbits, Aragorn, Gimli, Legolas, and they head to the tower, Orthanc, and they get to all meet up, and Sauron dies after he gets pushed by Wormtongue.
Right before that, I gotta say, the part where Merry and Pippin are smoking the
Pipe
their
weed.
Yeah.
pipe and stuff, pipe weed. That is just such like a nice little I know it's kind of at the beginning, but it's such a nice little respite from all the doom and gloom and the forbearing of the all the war and everything that's coming up. It's just, I thought it was a very, very nice little refreshing
I know, I'm glad someone got to take a rest. Good for them.
Yeah, and just have a little bit of a lightheartedness because you knew the storm was coming.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because it's also just very cute. And it's like throughout the whole series, they always do little things to remind you of the Shire. So you never lose sight of like why they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like when they go to the party or whatever and they're dancing on the table and they're singing and you wish you knew the song so you could sing along.
Really good.
But then they get the Palantir.
Yes.
And then we go to, which I don't know that I ever connected this because I don't think I ever watched Two Towers and Return of the King this close together, but they're just at Edoras again.
Yeah.
They're in the hall.
Oh, you never made that connection?
Wait. You're gonna skip past Wormtongue taking out
I did mention it. I
Saruman?
mentioned it and then you started talking about the hobbits. So then I just skipped ahead.
Oh, well.
It's a very cool scene. It's like that one and the mouth of Sauron are like, it is kind of confusing why you cut those.
Yeah. Out of everything,
I really like that scene just because it shows that he felt so betrayed. And even though they were trying to get information out of Saruman, Wormtongue at the end of it was like, this is not Harry Potter. Wormtongue at the end of it was like, you could just see it on his face from like, I have given my whole life and devotion to you at the expense of my people, and you slap me in the face, and now I will kill you for it. And it's awesome. I love that like last minute redeeming quality about him before he dies.
Yeah.
And I will say, as far as the adaptation of the book goes, I think they've really made a wise decision, including the scene and then not doing the scourging of the Shire or the scouring of the Shire.
Yeah,
it would have just been too long.
I agree.
And I love that chapter in the book. I think it's really interesting that Sauron goes back to the Shire and takes it over and destroys it.
Yeah.
But as far as the movie goes, it's too much, and you already feel good by the time they destroy the ring. There's no need to do that.
Yeah.
So that's just smart of them to cut it.
And they kind of alluded to
they
it
do.
when he was with Galadriel at the mirror.
Yeah. So you do see it in a way.
Rebekah, we talked about that on the Fellowship episode.
I'm sorry. That's why you should have had me on all three.
Oh, okay. Now I understand.
Okay, so then they go back to, what's the place called again?
Edoras.
I always just refer to all of it as Rohan.
Yeah.
That's just easier.
It's in Rohan, yeah.
Yeah. So they go back there. Merry and Pippin are there. And so is that when they all are celebrating because of the Battle of Helm's Deep? And they're also doing it in commemoration of the people who died.
Yeah.
Love that scene. It's in a way kind of like what you said, Rebekah. It's like they kind of take a moment to revel in victory. It's good.
Yeah.
Love.
Even though it's
and I love the Gimli and Legolas drinking game.
Oh, that's so funny.
Funny. Really
it
well
reminds
done.
me of that scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark where Marianne is drinking with that guy in the bar.
Oh, yes.
And he's like gonna beat her because she's a girl and he's this big like Napoleon guy that like is definitely gonna beat her, and everyone's cheering him on and betting, and she's faking like she's so drunk, and then he falls
I remember
over,
what you're talking
and she's
about.
like, okay, cool, pay up, but fellas, all right, and you need to leave my bar, it's closed now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Legolas is like, I think I feel something.
Yeah, so
fingers.
good. It's like, oh my gosh, an elf got drunk, kind of.
Yeah. And all those things, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that, Rebekah, the tingling, because all those things really just make this world so much richer.
Yeah.
Just those little tiny details are like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
The elves can't get drunk very easily. That's a fun detail.
And it makes it kind of relatable in a weird way, even though it's fantasy and it's not really relatable. It makes it that
totally.
way.
Yeah.
So that night, when they're sleeping, Pippin gets the Palantir from Gandalf because he hasn't been able to stop thinking about it. So he sees the Eye of Sauron, he touches it, and it's, controlling him. And it, in a way, it like sees into his, what he's been experiencing and seeing, which gives Sauron information.
Yeah.
But doesn't he also see something as well? I can't remember. He might not. I know
he
Aragorn
sees that
does.
they're moving on Gondor.
That's what it is.
So what's kind of interesting about Pippin, like Gandalf gets so mad at Pippin, but at the same time, after they find out that Sauron is moving on Gondor, that's when they make all their decisions. So I feel like Pippin's action, while not good, winds up being good.
Fortuitous in a way. And it's perfect. It's really good storytelling that Gandalf and Pippin have to spend so much time together. Because their characters are so much tension between them.
Yeah.
And I think it goes to show, like, even from the Mines of Moria to now, that he has, like, that is part of his character, to kind of befuddle things.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, so it would make sense that he would be the one to do that.
Yeah. But it helps Frodo because it helps create somewhat of a distraction before the main distraction with the King of Gondor.
Yeah. And then we have, so Gandalf and Pippin leave, and then we have our main Aragorn and all of them.
With Merry.
There's the Éowyn stuff that's kind of sitting there, but there's also Arwen is finally, like, for sure deciding, I mean, at some point in the movie, I don't remember exactly when, like, no, I'm going to stay here.
She has the dream. She sees
that's
the
right.
dream.
And that's when we see Brett from Flight of the Conchords.
Brett.
And then Elrond reforges Elendil, which is a cool scene where you're just like, oh, here we go.
Yeah,
Let's
really
do
cool.
this.
Really good.
Another good adaptation note, that happens at the beginning of Fellowship.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they saved it for this movie because it feels bigger when he uses that when he's with the in the ghost world.
Yeah, totally.
When he goes to the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland.
Totally, yeah.
Hey, a Lord of the Rings haunted mansion would be cool.
That would be cool.
So,
Like a haunted castle.
so Gandalf and Pippin,
Haunted Gondor.
they go to Gondor. Or no, they go to Minas Tirith. Same thing? Okay, so they meet with Denethor, who is Boromir's father, who we saw in the last movie extended edition, that he favored Boromir over Faramir.
Yeah.
And Pippin, not listening to Gandalf, talks. And he tells Denethor, like, that I am now in your service to repay your son's death.
Yeah.
Which I just remember being like, oh, you idiot.
Yeah.
Don't say anything. Anyway, though.
But it does show that he has honor. He's not
Totally.
just like a little
no,
fool.
it's good. It's just like, listen to people when they tell you to not talk.
Yeah.
That's how I felt.
Well, and the look on Gandalf's face, just like, oh my gosh, he is such an idiot.
And I like that they do take a moment because I think when Merry held the Palantir, he saw a white tree. So then they go to Minas Tirith and he sees the white tree, and Gandalf mentions how it's not bloomed for a long time. But they still have hope that someday it will. And then when you meet Denethor, it's like, no, they don't have hope.
Yeah.
Because Denethor doesn't have hope. Really nice touch.
Which, the song that he sings to Denethor while he's eating is, I love that song so much. It's so, and his voice is so, I don't know if it was actually his real voice or not, but whoever was singing it, it was such a unique, like, his voice is unique, and I really like it.
I think it was his voice, though. It really sounds like him.
But fun little side note.
Yeah, it
So
does.
fun little side note, in college, one of my professors, who was a really eccentric, fun guy, he would cancel classes on a nice day so that he could take his Honda motorcycle out fishing. And he also was building a seismograph to measure earthquakes. Just a really fun guy.
Okay.
But he would watch 30 minutes of Lord of the Rings every night.
What?
That's what he's told us. He watches 30 minutes of Lord of the Rings, like, in bed, going to bed. I don't know if this is... That's what he said. I'm assuming he was going through a phase. But he said that one night he fell asleep while watching it, and I'm pretty sure it's Return of the King. And then when he woke up again, it was the credits. and there was the most beautiful voice singing, and he thought it was Billy Boyd. I don't think it was, but I think he thought that it was maybe that song extended, and he played it for us in class because he just loved it so much. And it pertained, he was a philosophy professor, but also taught some physics too for like gen ed. So it really pertained, well, I guess he could argue that it pertains to philosophy in some way. However, it related to nothing we were talking about. He just really wanted to share this song.
That's so funny.
And it was just so sweet.
That is so awesome.
Yeah, he was a good professor.
Is that the song that won the Oscar?
I don't know. I don't know what it's called.
Okay.
The one in the credits? I don't know.
No, I mean the one Pippin sings.
I don't know what that one's called.
Okay. Maybe I'll see if I can look
I'm
that
assuming
up,
it could be an Enya song.
Oh, well, it's called No More to Spare, I think, because that looks like one of the scene titles. What was the name of the song that... The song that won was Into the West, so must have been something on... It probably was.
Yeah.
And I really liked how he, in those scenes in particular, Denethor is eating, and at first, it's just like the tomato juice running down his chin, but then it looks like it's turning into blood as the horses and the riders and the guys are getting shot and killed.
Very well done.
That is just so well done. And it's one of those details you wouldn't think about automatically, but then as you're watching it, it just flows so perfectly, and it just shows how much dedication they put into making this film into something you've never seen before or experienced before.
Yep. Totally. Yeah, and one thing that we should mention is that Denethor, I mean, that's got to be up there for some of the best food eating I've seen in a movie.
Yes.
Like, he's probably top 5. I think
still below George Costanza, but
yes, but he's in TV, so he's king of that. What's the one of the Bong Joon-ho movies, Kang Ho Song?
Okay, any movie that Kang Ho Song is in, I'm pretty sure he just eats a ton.
Yeah, but I feel like, is it Parasite where he does like some master class on eating?
He eats a lot in Parasite and The Host. The Host, he eats a lot.
Yeah,
especially that last shot of the movie.
Yes, I don't remember the last shot
that
of the
man
movie,
knows how to eat on camera.
He really does.
But he also eats a lot in Taxi Driver.
Yes, I think
just so good.
Yeah, I mean that's a tough competition. Denethor, as far as evil eating goes, he's number 1.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I think it's gotta go to Parasite or The Host. Kang Ho Song is king of eating on camera.
Love it.
But
king of all is George Costanza.
And I have not seen that, so I can't say anything to that.
Well,
just take our word for it. Great eater.
and go enjoy the movies. You'd love both of them. They're both awesome.
Yeah, I need to watch them.
Okay, so Pippin is in service to him. Gandalf, the kind of the big reason of going there is that, to Minas Tirith call to action. They're coming for you guys. We need to all be ready for battle. And of course, like we just said, Denethor's kind of like, I don't care anymore.
With some great acting on the food. Oh.
Yeah, talked about it. And then Faramir, really great scene with Faramir and Denethor when Faramir tells him, like, you wish that I had died instead of Boromir.
Yeah.
And then he said, like, I can't totally remember exactly, but pretty much like, where am I needed? Because he's the son of the steward. So like, if Denethor dies, Faramir is the next steward.
Yeah.
So like, but pretty much Denethor says with a look, pretty much, I want you on the front lines because I would rather you be dead.
Yeah.
So that's where Faramir goes.
Yeah.
And then they march off.
And what's interesting is that I think it's in the Two Towers, or maybe it's in the Fellowship. I can't remember where Faramir...
Two Towers.
And you, in the extended, and you see kind of the disconnect between him and Denethor, but you feel it in
Absolutely.
this.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, so he goes back off because his dad is like, you let Osgiliath fall, even though they stood no chance. And he's like, you have to ride back out and do it. So they do.
And they get massacred.
And Faramir gets sent back unconscious, but alive. And this is when Denethor attempts to kill him. Yes. And himself.
His grief has completely consumed him at this point.
Yeah, and I think it kind of goes into something that you were just saying, that it's like he can imagine a world where Faramir is the steward. So he would rather they both just burn alive and someone else rules Gondor, because he doesn't want his son to rule that much. Yeah. And then...
Yeah, and he, becomes deranged by it.
He's got a great performance in this movie.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Love it. And I love his outfits. His outfits are on point.
Yeah,
love them.
really good. But yeah, so
Yes.
Pippin's witnessing this, and he's trying to get it to stop. Obviously, he can't do very much, so he gets Gandalf. And I think it's within this time that we see a flower. One flower has bloomed on the tree.
Oh my gosh. So
which is
poignant.
like
Yep.
the most crazy time of the movie for us to be shown that.
Yeah.
Because it's all doom and gloom.
And you're like, oh my gosh, the hope
Yeah,
is
yeah.
still there.
It's
It's still
so-
there. Come
so
on,
good.
we got this.
And meanwhile, we've also had like all the armies of Sauron are coming.
Yes.
And they have crazy huge trolls. They have these catapults. They're launching the heads of people over the edge. And earlier, Denethor had been like, everyone abandon your station.
Yeah.
Run
There
for
is
your
no
lives.
hope. Yeah.
And Gandalf is like, no,
Yeah.
we are going to like stop this. And I love Gandalf in this movie because he's a little bit like, he's kind of that Dumbledore energy where he's like angry.
Yeah.
He has anger, and he's
Righteous
like,
anger. Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
not going to be passive about this situation.
Right.
This is wrong, and I'm going to take care
Right.
of it.
Right.
And I love that.
I'm going to take care of it until Aragorn
Yeah,
gets
'cause
here.
first-
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, because first he was kind of like, I'm the knowledgeable wizard, and I will help you, and I will help form things, and I will do what I can. Now it's like, okay, no, I gotta do this because obviously you guys are
Right.
just being
Yep.
dumb.
Absolutely.
And then also we didn't mention it. It's just such a powerful scene when Pippin goes up and lights the thing.
Oh, lights the beacons?
The beacon, and then that
Yes!
great montage of all of it.
beacons!
Then it gets, to Rohan. They see it, and because before that, Theoden's like, "Why would we answer to Gondor when they have never given us aid?" And then when the beacons are lit, Theoden answers the call
Yes.
because he's a good king.
Some of the most beautiful cinematography.
Totally.
In the
Amazing.
Whole series.
Yeah. Really, really good.
It makes you want to
It
go
does.
to New Zealand
I know
right
it does.
now.
So meanwhile, this stuff is going on with Denethor. The riders of Rohan are answering the call.
Yeah.
They are on their way. And then that's when we kind of briefly talked about how like Éowyn comes anyway. Well, she
Yes.
comes because it's like she's supposed to come on the eve of battle. But Mary comes too.
Well, and they come. Remember, they come despite the fact that Gondor doesn't
Yes.
come for
Yeah.
them.
Really great. So yeah, they go and they camp on the eve of battle.
Yeah.
So they spend some time there. Pretty much that's when the sword comes back to Aragorn, and that's when also Elrond tells him that Arwen is going to die if the darkness wins, because she is now bound to it. The stakes are even higher. So just
Yeah. Nothing like love
totally.
to motivate
So
you.
basically, you get to a point where Aragorn knows that he needs to go talk to the ghosts,
Yes.
and Legolas and Gimli come with him, of course.
And this is where
Well, I think it's deeper than that, because this is the point where he realizes I do have to become king.
right.
I have to take my seat in my rightful.
And not only that,
Stop.
he knows that if they don't get any extra help, even beyond the grave, they will not win,
Yeah.
because
then-
not enough
Yeah.
people have answered the call.
And this is where like Peter Jackson's filmmaking of like being a like strange kind of horror weird director really shines in this scene in particular, where they go through and of course he does get the aid, and there's the skull like waterfall that's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah,
Um
stressful part of the
Yes.
video game.
yeah, when you have to run out.
Yeah. Before it all
Yeah.
consumes you.
So they do it, and he uses his sword and stops the ghost sword. Very cool.
Which I think because I just never paid attention too much about what these ghosts, what their story was.
Yeah.
So it's like, they didn't come to Gondor's aid at the time, so Isildur cursed them.
Yes.
And the only way that they can pass on is if they answer a call from the king of Gondor.
Yes. And especially it's the heir of Isildur, which
Yeah.
is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I can't. It's been a really long time since I've read all the books, but I think they talk about them specifically more in the Silmarillion.
That would make sense.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure they do.
But I can't remember. That might be a little bit earlier than them, because I know that there's like 4 ages, and I think the Silmarillion is the first or second age.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, And the men came in the Second Age, I think. I can't remember. It's been a very, very long time since I've read the earlier books. But there is one of the books. It might be The Children of Hurin. But anyway, one of them does specifically talk about those battles and them a little bit more. So in these films, they kind of have to like do a rush job a tiny bit in explaining what happened, so you don't really get a full picture of them necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, I think you get what you need to get.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree with you. All that to say, I agree with you.
So they get out of the... They run out of the collapsing cave just in time to see all of the boats of bad guys coming to the war. And that's a moment where you see all hope lost in Aragorn.
Yeah.
And it's very rare to see that. So it's like scary to see that. But then when the ghosts show up, they take over the ships. It's like, cool.
Let's mention on the ship is Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
He gets an arrow to him. And then also it has like most of the producers to the movie.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So
there's
there's like 3 or 4 of the other and like assistant director and stuff are in it. So
fun.
like all those face shots of like the close-ups, most of those are people who are like pivotal to the production of the films.
Oh, that's fun. I like that they did that.
Oh, hey, if it's that epic of a movie, you gotta get in it somewhere.
Yeah.
So
then we go. Go ahead.
Well, there's just a huge battle on Gondor.
Yeah.
And what's crazy about this movie is there's a battle in Osgiliath, there's a battle in Gondor, there's a battle at the Black Gate, and I mean, if you're ever gonna make an epic movie, just study this movie, watch it 1,000 times because it is never boring.
No,
it is never boring.
No.
And this movie never
From
feels like
to cinematography.
Yeah, it never feels like they're just spending a lot of time just showing off the action. They are, but it doesn't feel like that. It feels like you're just there in the battle. Mm-hmm. And I think, if I can, and I know you'll disagree on some of this, I think the Oliphants look amazing.
Yeah.
The fallen down one is a practical one that they actually built.
Yeah.
The Nazgul and their dragons look unbelievable.
Yes.
They look better than like any of the dragons that were in Game of Thrones.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Which came out, 10, 15 years later. It is a TV budget. And I didn't watch the whole show. I only watched the first 3 seasons. But I did see a couple dragons and they looked okay.
Yeah.
And it is a TV budget. So.
And a TV time production.
So the Oliphants, I was thinking about that specifically. The Oliphants, yes, they look very well, but I don't think long term they will age super well as they become more and more obsolete in CGI as it improves.
Yeah, because it's been almost 20 years that like there's throughout rewatching all 3 of these movies, there's only probably like 10 shots that I think look more toward the air of bad.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the CG goes.
No, I would agree with that.
So to me, I don't think they will age.
I think the elephants have and will continue to age well because I just assume that they really focus on the weight of them, so how they move. And I think that they still move very much like they actually would. And then I feel like the other really important thing, it's an elephant, you got to put wrinkles on it. So they did make sure to include all of those wrinkles. And then not only that, they're constantly moving. So they're never just standing and you're looking at it, which doesn't give you a lot of time to think about it.
Yeah.
Because it's all action.
Yeah.
So I think that all of those things combined.
Yeah.
It really didn't bug me as much as I thought it
would.
I thought that it actually might look worse.
I thought so too. I thought we were going to be a little like, ugh.
Yeah, but it looks great. Legolas on it wasn't the best, but it was still pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the worst part about it is actually Legolas going down the trunk of the one than anything else. Like, that looked ridiculous, and it looks worse and worse every year.
That one's just fun to me.
By.
Yeah.
Like, I just like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then the other thing I do want to talk a little bit about, and Rebekah, just don't even say anything, okay?
Okay, I won't.
The horses and all the CG horses, I was even looking for them, and for the most part, except for a select few times, they like got the physics because they motion captured horses doing all these movements, and when they're filling out the battle scene, and when it's really close, you can kind of see. Mm-hmm. But when it's further out, nah, not for me.
Oh, I completely agree with you, actually. So,
And like when the Nazgul is swooping down and grabbing the horses, it's like it's so fast too that
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so fast.
you'd have to go frame by frame to be like, okay, you know.
And who's going to do that? Corridor crew, that's it.
so I agree with you completely. It's the close-up riding, and it's the humans.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
not
that is what you said.
Their
Yeah.
movements are
Okay. I see
So,
what you're saying.
yeah.
I think I really love that they took a moment for King Theoden to give a rousing, like, kind of speech
Like a
before they
Braveheart
went.
speech?
Yeah, like before they went off into battle.
Yes.
Very well done. And yeah, I just wanted to touch on that. Really well done. I did not know that they actually got 250 horses for this
Yeah.
scene.
Yeah.
But they multiplied it to 2,000.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I couldn't even. What? That's
And
crazy.
What's cool is a lot of the shots of him with confirming watching the behind the scenes, it is that actor riding the horse in a lot of it.
Yeah.
Like that rousing speech is that
Yeah.
actor.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff where he doesn't have a helmet on, it's him.
Well, they had to ride a lot of those. Like Aragorn, he's an accomplished horse rider
Yeah.
anyway, but he spent hours and hours. He even bought I think it was one of the stunt girls. He bought her horse that she rode a lot for her and gave it to her. And then when he did the movie Hidalgo after this movie, there was like, I can't remember, 5 or 6 horses in that movie that represented Hidalgo, and he bought 2 of them, I think. And he rode like every single day for that film as well. He loves horses.
That's cool.
He's also like such an accomplished person. He knows, like, he can speak 5 or 6 languages fluently, and he's just really cool. He's a really cool
Oh,
dude.
yeah. I mean, we love Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah.
He rules.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say,
Especially as a horse person, like him being a horse person too, and like dedicating so much time to that makes me love him even more.
I was going to say too, another big fist pump moment for me was when Éomer is looking up at an Oliphant and he has a spear, and you're like, flip that spear over, man, throw it. I love that part. He is so
crashes
cool.
into the other one.
Yep.
And those physics, like, I was like, oh, like you could feel those hits.
Hard to watch.
Yeah.
And then okay, so then
it was
just
cool.
jumping to the Nazgul, the Witch King gets Theoden. He is pinned down by his horse. Éowyn sees it, and she goes to try and protect him. And that's when, she's defending him by fighting the Witch King. And just crazy that she just decapitates the Nazgul like nothing, like butter pretty much.
Yeah.
And then not only that, the Witch King is going to fight her, and he says, no, like, you're so stupid, no man can kill me.
Yeah.
Which comes
Can I say that when she kills the Nazgul and his wings twitch after
Really
he
cool.
dies around the Witch King, that is one of my favorite battle scene moments. It just is it makes the dragon more real, even though he's dying. And it makes the Witch King really cool because then you see him in his full stature too, and you're like, holy crap, how is she gonna defeat that dude? And how is she not like peeing herself because he is so formidable?
Such great images. And then of course she does kill him, and I just remember the first time I saw it just being so shocked. Like, she did it.
Yeah,
she
I am
did
no
it.
man, and she does it. I mean, that's so cool. I love that so much.
And then Mary sees the whole thing, right? But because she also is trying to find him, but then she is, now with Theoden after all of this. It's just crazy. She just killed the Witch King, and she's probably just like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Theoden. And she goes to him, and they have a moment. I love that they included that moment.
And
Very
then
touching.
They are eventually successful after they're overrun in the courtyard and it becomes dark, and the Witch King comes. I mean, not the Witch King. The haunted mansion comes and swipes through everything.
Yeah,
but they succeed at Gondor. Amazing.
Yeah.
Denethor tries to kill Faramir and himself. He is unsuccessful because of Frodo and Pippin, and he dies. And now they're sitting there. the fellowship that we know and love. And they're like, what the heck are we going to do?
Well, then I think that's when Gandalf might mention that he can't see Frodo because of the darkness over Mordor.
Yes.
So the only thing that they can think to do, which is what Aragorn said, was...
Which I love that it's Aragorn.
Yeah.
Because it's like this is like the moment where he is king, right?
Yeah.
Right at this moment.
Yes. So he says that we need to distract the Eye of Sauron by going there and waging war. Mm-hmm. Even though we will not win. We will all die. But we need to do it if that means that Frodo can get to the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And I love when they get to that battle. I love when Gimli and Legolas, I mean, we know that they've kind of been like frenemies the whole entire film, and then they kind of do their little competition. But at the very, very end, Gimli was like, I never thought I would die next to an elf or whatever. And then Legolas says the perfect, I love this. He goes, how about a friend?
I love that.
And he goes, I can do that, and I can do that. And I'm like, oh my gosh. That is so
beautiful.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And I also love too, so, Mouth of Sauron, we talked about that. But Aragorn, so they're all back. Aragorn looks at everyone, and you can just see this look on his face of, it's an honor to fight with you all. Goodbye. And he storms and he runs to begin the fight.
But before that, he
says
says for Frodo. Which
I think I also cried again. And then so who are the next two people to run? Merry and Pippin.
Which is telling. I love that.
Yes.
Cried even more at that.
Yes.
Insane. So then battle ensues. It's nuts like all the other ones. I think that I like that of course this is all interspersed with Sam and Frodo getting up to destroying the ring. So it's all very well edited. Yeah. And of course it's much shorter than the battle we just saw. Because if it was like even half as long, it would be it would be boring potentially.
Yes.
And they have no idea what basically all of the remaining humans are doing for them right now.
Yeah, this is...
They just know that Sauron all of a sudden is distracted, and this is their moment.
Totally.
And then, the ring gets destroyed. The eagles come in.
Well, isn't it crazy that the ring gets destroyed, and they all know it because they have Sauron. The tower falls, and they're all like so happy. But then they see the volcano explode, and they just all know that Frodo died.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
Yeah,
so crazy.
Eagles come in, save them all. I really love the choice they made throughout the next half hour of the movie where it fades to the white and does it fade to black ever, or is it only white?
I know that it fades.
I think it fades to black.
Yeah,
and
it
then
fades to black when Frodo and Sam get out of the mountain, when they're on the rock.
Yeah.
And then they get back. And then this is when I've the movie's been priming me for some intense emotions this whole time. And I'm like, oh man, I'm kind of surprised I haven't cried yet. But then he sees everyone.
Yeah.
Just as he saw him in Rivendell. And that starts getting to me.
Yeah.
And then...
And speaking of crying, just so everybody knows, I have not cried at all up until this point. And I still haven't cried at this point either.
You're saving yours?
Yeah, I'm saving all my tears. And I've never cried in a movie before this movie, but I do cry in this movie every time.
I wonder if it's the same spot where I actually cried, because I'm getting close, but we'll see. We'll compare when we get there. So then we see Aragorn get crowned king. Mm-hmm. Arwen is there. They share a very passionate kiss.
For some reason, that part was really cried there with Arwen, which I've never really. Of course, I've cared, but I've never felt too emotional about it.
Right, because you're married now.
I guess probably that's it.
And then we see that the tree.
Oh, that would be me.
The tree has
someday.
blossomed.
Mm-hmm.
Hope is restored. The king has returned. There will be restoration in this world.
Yeah.
And the city looks brighter.
And there's greenery everywhere now.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the hobbits bow to Aragorn, and he says, "You bow to no one." And then everyone bows to the hobbits, and that's when I cry.
Yeah, I cried there too.
Oh, I still haven't cried at that point, but I think it's epic, and I'm like, so good. Yes.
And then they're at the Shire, and we see Frodo finish the Lord of the Rings book.
Well, I can't remember if this is exactly this part, but they're all at the Green Dragon.
Oh,
and all of the hobbits are just carrying on as if nothing has ever happened to Hobbiton in the Shire, and which is like kind of.
I don't think that's at the Green.
It's fine, but it's just beautiful because, in a way, it's beautiful because they have like continued and carried on. But they're sitting there and they can't, of course, because they need that. You know, they have to process all of this. How?
Yeah.
But it's just so great because that's when Sam sees Rosie and he's probably thinking, I helped destroy the ring. I can go talk to her now.
Yeah.
So sweet. And then they get married.
Yes.
And it's so sweet. And then you see Frodo very happy like everyone else, but you can kind of see there's just something in his eyes.
Great acting.
Yes.
And then
Bilbo
is going to go to the Grey Havens with the elves. And then he leaves. It's I'm starting to cry even more. Gandalf leaves, and Pippin and Merry and him especially show there's this look in their face because they experience a little more with Gandalf. And then Frodo is Gandalf says, "It's time, Frodo," and Frodo steps out, and cue Rebecca's tears.
And that's exactly it. And as soon as when Sam looks at him, that's when I just start bawling, and every single time I just think, you can't leave Sam after all of that. You can't leave Sam.
I know.
It's so sweet.
But
Friendship, man. I think it's just because partially I didn't really have like amazing friends, or I didn't have that type of a friendship ever, and everybody else always did.
Yeah.
That I'm like, oh man, you can't. When you have a bond like that, you can't go. You can't do it. I know that the Shire sucks for you now, but don't leave Sam.
Yeah.
But Sam has Rosie, so I get it.
And you can see that he's. I mean, the whole move, all three movies, he's been talking about going home, and you can see that when he is home, he is truly content. When obviously Frodo is not.
He really is.
Yeah.
Like he needs to move on. But yeah, of course, you are screaming inside like you can't do this, but there's no other choice.
Yeah, it rips your heart out, man.
Yeah.
I thought my heart was dead and cold and black, and no, it's beating alive and sad.
Yeah. And then, what's the last line Sam says? Does he say "not too bad" as he goes into?
I think he just says, "I'm home."
Oh, is that what he says?
But
okay.
I love that the last shot is of the Hobbit hole.
It's
Yeah,
and
beautiful.
it is cool that
Full circle.
earlier in the movie he said "we went there and back again," which is the alternate title to the Hobbit movie or the Hobbit book. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So that's the Lord of the Rings, folks. I think this has been a fantastic series so far, probably our best.
Yes.
And I guess I just want to say, after watching these movies again, especially like relating to this bigger time that we are living in right now, where a lot of things are really bad. A lot of things are really, really bad. I mean, we were just at a protest in Ashland for police brutality before we recorded this, and it just feels like there is not hope. It really doesn't feel like there's any hope. But watching a movie like this really reminds me that there is hope, and that I can cling on to that hope, and the king will return.
And healing.
And the tree will blossom once again. So if you are in a really, this is a fun podcast and everything, but I hope listening to this and watching these movies, you can have like some levity and some hope provided to your life. Hopefully listening along. That would be lovely. That would make the podcast especially worth it.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to say to wrap up The Lord of the Rings. Jordan, do you have anything you want to say?
No. I feel like I said all I needed to say.
Yeah.
I just concur with everything you just said. So.
Yeah.
What about you, Rebecca?
I concur with all of that, and then I just also want to say, like, thanks for having me, because you know that I've wanted to be on the podcast for, like, ever, and this one was totally worth it.
I would say it was worth the wait.
Because I love The Lord of the Rings.
This was a good ep.
And I just...
For sure.
Yeah. And I just love everything Tolkien. I have biographies of Tolkien. I have all the books, except for one, from Beren and Luthien to The Children of Húrin and The Silmarillion and The Lord of the Rings, and I love it. Oh, The Unfinished Tales.
Oh, yeah.
I love everything Tolkien. He is the bar in every aspect of media, in my opinion. it'll be interesting to see what they do with the Amazon TV show, since they're going to do it before The Hobbit.
Yeah.
And if they pull it off, and they're doing it with actors that not a lot of people know, if they pull it off, it could be like the second most incredible thing that Lord of the Rings has ever done visually.
Yeah. Well,
because the Hobbits, we could scratch that out of there.
Well, but speaking of the Hobbits,
not appreciate what Peter Jackson did with that.
Speaking of the Hobbit, we are next week diving into The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey. And folks, I know that on this very podcast, we've already said a lot of opinions about it, but I can promise to you, I can pledge to you, I am going to do my very best to go into it clean slate this time around. Because, especially reading the production, I think I'm going to be a lot more sympathetic to how it turned out, knowing the production details of those movies, because it's not as clear cut as I think a lot of people assume it is. But anyway,
That doesn't mean it makes it a good movie, though.
Hey, you're gonna have to listen next week, Rebekah.
Just saying, because I just watched them recently. Again.
Do you have anything to plug, Rebekah?
Do I have anything to plug? I do a little bit of geometric art, and I have a website. Well, it's not a website, but it is a Facebook page that I would love for people to follow, since I don't have a ton of people, and I would love to do some more commission work for fun. That would be awesome.
What's the page called?
Yeah, I was looking that up really quick. So it is called LL Silver Artwork is the page name.
LL Silver Artwork.
It stands for Loki, or Lady Loki Silver. I always thought it would. I really love Loki. He's amazing. And I want like a Loki movie and all of that stuff, because Loki is just awesome. And
we're going to get a TV show.
I know.
That should be fun.
I love Norse mythology. So I know that Sigyn is technically her name, and she's the wife of Loki, but Loki just sounds cool. So Lady Loki Silver.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Go check it out.
Some art stuff. So, yeah. Check it out. Like the page. You don't have to follow it all the time, but if you want to, you can.
And then finally, before we wrap up, www.patreon.com/Micah McCaw. Sign up for $3 to listen to MPU, the sequel, where we cover movie franchises that only have 2 entries. And if you go back to a couple of weeks ago, we covered Finding Nemo, and next month we'll be doing Finding Dory. So check that out, folks. Those are some fun episodes already.
Keep listening. Just keep listening.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.